Hey guys, let's get more news from Dallas Cowboys, but first don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. The ties that bind, why Marvin Lewis called Mike McCarthy for Mike Zimmer for Cowboys DC job. When the Dallas Cowboys hired Mike McCarthy in 2020 as the 9th head coach in franchise history, owner Jerry Jones and Vice President Stephen Jones interviewed former Cincinnati Bengals coach Marvin Lewis for the job, in part to satisfy the NFL's Rooney Rule obligations. Lewis and Stephen Jones had a long-standing relationship from their days on the NFL's competition committee. Lewis, now the assistant head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, did not speak with the Jones family regarding the vacant defensive coordinator position on McCarthy's staff following the departure of Dan Quinn to the Washington Commanders as head coach. But Lewis was admittedly directly involved in the process that landed former Minnesota Vikings head coach Mike Zimmer back with the Cowboys as McCarthy's DC heading in the 2024 season. "I haven't talked to Jerry or Stephen this time around," Lewis said to the Star-Telegram. "I stayed out of that. I'm happy it got done. And they were able to figure it out because I just think they've got a lot of talented players there, and whoever walked in that door had to walk in with respect." Lewis had something to do with Zimmer walking back through the door with the Cowboys 18 years after departing a 12-year stint with the team from 1994 to 2006. Lewis has known McCarthy since both coached together at the University of Pittsburgh in 1990. And he knows Zimmer going back to 1983 when he was at Idaho State and Zimmer was at Weber State. Powered by Taboola recommended for you: national young siblings found dead in possible murder-suicide, cops say. Impacts us deeply. February 12, 2024 National dad shot, killed during custody exchange of 4-year-old daughter, Colorado cops say. February 13, 2024 National women were raped, found dead by their kids in the 70s, CA cops say. Suspect identified. February 9, 2024 National naked teen leaps from third-story window to escape man beating him, Florida cops say. February 12, 2024 Zimmer was also Lewis' defensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals from 2008 to 2013 before he became the Vikings head coach, and the two have recently done a podcast together. Lewis has checked in with McCarthy over the last 4 years with the Cowboys, and when Quinn left for Washington, he picked up the phone on behalf of Zimmer. "When this opportunity came up with Dan getting the job, I reached out to Mike saying, Zimmer wants to coach. We talk a lot. He wants to coach. He wants to get back into it and he's ready to go," Lewis said. "So you reached out to McCarthy about Zimmer?" "Yeah," Lewis said. "Zimmer has been out coaching since 2021 when he was fired after 8 seasons with Vikings, though he was consulted with Deion Sanders during his stints at Jackson State and now Colorado." McCarthy pointed to his familiarity coaching against Zimmer when he was with Green Bay Packers and Zimmer was with the Vikings, as well as when he was offensive coordinator with the New Orleans Saints and Zimmer ran the Cowboys' defense. But he also mentioned their mutual relationship with Lewis is a key factor in the hiring. "Having a mutual friend in Marvin Lewis and just the people that you really trust in this business," McCarthy said. "I have a personal experience. I don't know if I have called as many games against another coordinator in my time in the league. All of that is important." Lewis and McCarthy are so close that Lewis said if he wasn't with the Raiders, he might be in Dallas. "I don't know Jerry as well as I know Stephen, but I'm a fan of them," Lewis said. "If I wasn't here, I might be there doing something for Mike." Lewis said he believed Zimmer was a good fit in Dallas as he's a former head coach who could run the defense and allow McCarthy to continue to focus on offense. And he believes their personalities will match. He intimated the delay in Zimmer's official hiring with the Cowboys roughly a week after his initial interview was about the two sides getting on the same page as far as expectations and roles. "What was important was that everybody was clear on expectations going into it," Lewis said. "That was paramount. Just what Mike McCarthy sees Mike Zimmer's role as a defensive coordinator, as a member of his staff and so forth. That he knows he can just focus on doing the things he needs to do and have the input that he wants, and that Mike Zimmer is going to be receptive to it and he understands the authority and the chain of command. I think that was important for everybody that to be on the same page with." Cowboys targeted former head coach for DC role. Mike Zimmer received other offers. In place on the Cowboys coaching staff for 13 years, Mike Zimmer was a valued assistant in Dallas over a few HC regimes. The former Vikings leader will join a staff that resides on unstable ground, but familiarity drew the veteran back to Texas. Zimmer is joining a coaching staff that centers around one of his longtime NFC North rivals. He and Mike McCarthy coached against each other for 5 seasons, while tied to the Vikings and Packers. McCarthy will call on Zimmer to help save his job. Although the Cowboys were believed to want to promote Joe Witt and interview D-line coach Aiden Durd, it appears their qualifications did not meet McCarthy's target. Expected to go into the 2024 season a lame duck, McCarthy said he prioritized a defensive coordinator with HC experience. I think the importance of the leadership role on defense, outside of scheme, calling games, and coaching players, there is so much more that goes on as far as an assistant coaches, McCarthy said, via ESPN.com's Todd Archer. I think it's important. Mike's had experience and success he's had at every level is what makes this a great fit. The Cowboys interview list matches up with this preference. The team met with Ron Rivera and Rex Ryan, with the latter drawing some 11th-hour buzz during the process. Zimmer's deal took a few days to finalize, but he had emerged as the front-runner. The 8-year Minnesota coach becomes the second former H.C. McCarthy has hired to run his defense in Dallas, following Dan Quinn. McCarthy went in this direction with 2 of his D.C. hires in Green Bay as well, bringing in Dom Capers, 2009, and Mike Pettine, 2018. Zimmer, 67, was only connected to the Cowboys this offseason and only mentioned as interviewing with the Broncos in 2023. The longtime NFL staffer, however, said, via Archer, he had options to return to the league since the Vikings fired him in January 2022. Zimmer chose the Cowboys due to trust. Considering how long his first Dallas tenure lasted, it is unsurprising he holds the organization in high regard. Debuting as an NFL assistant on Barry Switzer's first staff back in 1994, Zimmer stayed on through the Sean Gailey, Dave Campo, and Bill Parcells regimes. Parcells went as far to leave Zimmer, promoted to defensive coordinator under Campo, in place as his DC throughout his 4-year tenure, which ended in 2006. Zimmer left to become Bobby Petrino's defensive coordinator in 2007, landing his launching pad role as Bengals DC following Petrino's quick Atlanta exit. After the Vikings stay, Zimmer helped ex-Cowboys charge Deion Sanders out at both Jackson State and Colorado. This will be Zimmer's 4th NFL DC gig. Proposed trade sends Cowboys a $135 million star in desperate move. Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones' comments about going all-in has prompted plenty of rumors on potential trades and free agency. Could the Cowboys take a big swing on trying to land Los Angeles Chargers pass rusher Joey Bosa? It is unlikely, but Bleacher Report's Nate Lujois believes the Cowboys are desperate enough to sniff around. The NFL analyst estimates that Bosa's trade value is a first-round pick. Would Dallas be willing to send the number 24 selection to the Chargers for Bosa? I think Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, they would be able to do it, work out the financials for Bosa, LaJoie explained during a February 15, 2024 Bleacher Report live session. Get his money and a big bonus initially, or whatever the case may be. I think they could get his cap hit down to between $10 and $12 million, which is far more reasonable than the other situation we're talking about. So honestly, I think Dallas could be a very, very reasonable spot for him. I don't think that there's going to be many teams in on him. I think that they're desperate right now. We know how desperate the Dallas Cowboys are, right? If they fail to win a playoff game this next year, heads will roll. As Lujois mentioned, there is little chance this potential deal happens unless the Cowboys are able to rework Bosa's contract. Bosa has 2 seasons remaining on a 5-year, $135 million deal. The Chargers have an out in Bosa's contract this offseason, but new head coach Jim Harbaugh likely wants to keep the star pass rusher. Yet, the Chargers find themselves in salary cap hell, with little results to show for all the spending. Bosa is slated to have a $15 million salary in 2024, which is accompanied by a massive $36.6 million cap hit. I think this could be the kind of deal that could put that defense over the top, assuming that they stay healthy, LaJoy added. I do think that Dallas makes sense, for Bosa. And I think that Jerry Jones is going to be incredibly desperate this offseason to make a big splash in order to sort of relieve some pressure from his fan base. It is hard to imagine the Cowboys or any other team picking up the tab on Bosa's contract given his recent injury history. Bosa has played in a combined 14 games over the last 2 seasons. The defender notched 20 tackles, 8 quarterback hits, 6 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, and a forced fumble in 9 appearances last season. Injuries aside, it is hard to argue with Bosa's resume, which includes 4 Pro Bowl appearances and being the 2016 Defensive Player of the Year. Bosa has had 4 seasons with double-digit sacks. Pairing Bosa with Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence would be a nightmare for opposing quarterbacks. Yet, some may be taking Jones' all-in comments out of context. There is a good chance Jones is simply referring to giving current players like Parsons and CeeDee Lamb contract extensions. It is unlikely the Cowboys draft a player at number 24 that is as good as Bosa. From that perspective, it is hard to argue with the proposed deal. Bosa's cap hit makes it a hard no unless there is some financial magic done to get the star's contract down. And you fan, what do you think of the Joey Bosa situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.